no.
Oh my god. Oh, nice.
Hello.
Yeah, do it.
This is Endgame, and we're going on a field trip today.
Woo!
Oh dear.
All right. Thank
It's
you,
already
John.
begun.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
so cute. Yes, hello. Welcome to Endgame. This is a talk show about the future of humanity. Today we are doing a bit of an update. We've done a few episodes before where we will go around to different worlds, and this one will be art focused. So we're going to different worlds, and we're going to talk about the art that we find ourselves immersed in, and have conversations about it, and ask questions, and we'll see what the metaverse has to offer in its current state. So how this is going to happen is we are going to move from portal to portal. I'm going to open up invite plus instances, and the thing is, there will be a download time, and it'll be it'll be a different download time for everybody, so not everyone is going to get there at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in there, we're going to wait, we're going to try to get everyone in there, and then when we're ready to start the conversation, we're going to do a verbal signal to indicate that we're all there. And so since we're looking at art, we're going to be mindful, we're going to get a little meditative. And so when you're in there, when we're ready to start, I want everyone to go So practice with me right now. Beautiful, yes. And from there, we will start the conversation. So that's rule one. The other rule is just be polite in the conversation. Raise your hand if you want to say something. The other rule was, oh yes, if you get disconnected from the group, if you get lost, if you can't find us, if you get sent to another instance, make sure you are friends with this account right here, Endgame VR, and you will be able to request an invite off of him. Okay, so with that, I think we're ready to get started, so I will open up a portal over here.
I'm gonna try to walk everywhere. This is gonna be great.
Oh my god.
I'm
Well,
gonna do
you are
spatial
huge.
walking the entire time. Let's do this. Hence the big avatar.
Emphasize
Alright.
it. Emphasize
Oh,
it.
you
Use
are the
it.
king
Use it.
again. Oh my. What? Wait, that does.
It's really cool. You can change everything around.
This looks really nice.
Oh, maybe you can show us a bit.
The splash screen. Whoa.
Alright.
It's King
Let's do this.
Shiva.
Oh, that's.
I'm King Shiva. I'm doing spatial walking this entire time. Let's go.
That's very impressive.
Oh my
I'm
god.
King Shiva.
Pharaoh? Time for
Alright, let's
Pharaoh?
go over here.
Oh, you
This is
didn't give me
perfect
time
well
to
for you.
react.
Oh, I'm just doing your
Okay.
face.
I know. Oh my goodness.
All right. Okay, we've got plenty of people in here, so okay, ready? Awesome, thanks. Okay,
Your ashes on my
and
face.
everyone get in a circle. We're all in a circle discussion group. Okay, so this world, and we can explore a bit in just a second, but this is a world called the Temple of and the artist who created this world is Technobabble, who I believe, yes, they have made quite a few worlds actually, and I recommend them all. Some of them were not compatible. I wanted to go to Nephilim, but there were not enough. You can't fit enough people in there. So I just this one kind of intrigued me. Does anybody know what the name is? Like what that is? Like just where that comes from?
You are?
Isn't that a Babylonian
Yeah.
city?
You are. Close.
Yeah.
It was a very, very ancient city in Mesopotamia. And it lasted from about 4000 BC to 500 BC. So I guess that like 3000 years or something.
Wow.
And it actually had a temple that was a ziggurat So very much like this. So a ziggurat is like a pyramid, right, with like steps. And it was built to honor the Sumerian god of the moon. And it didn't look exactly like this, but it's a ziggurat. So I'm kind of interested in this digital version as like a modern incarnation of the temple. I'm not sure. The Sumerian gods. Well, okay, so the Sumerian gods were also they were kind of prominent in that cyberpunk book, right? What's it called? Snow Crash.
Snow Crash.
Anyway, which was all about the origins of words and neural programming or whatever. And I don't know if any of this world was built with that in mind, but we should.
So that white dot up there is representing the moon?
It very well might, and we should explore, and we should go up there. However, nobody press any of the buttons up there because they will start playing music, and that will interfere with the conversation. So don't press any buttons. But let's head
Well,
up.
the most important thing is we
I
know
just feel
that
like we shouldn't
the moon
cross
is
the
a
stream
disc.
until we're going up there. So.
Moon is a disc.
Don't want the Ghostbusters to.
Just go in a nice single file
Alright,
line,
people.
like normal school
Slowly.
times.
What's going on?
Maybe thought about the same stuff, man.
No, it wasn't you. It was somebody else. You were. That was the
Oh, no.
Leonardo DiCaprio one. Was you though? Which
Oh,
is surprisingly almost accurate.
If there's a giant fucking
I'm walking
Leonardo
here.
that shows up, you know what's up.
It sure looks like it.
All of the sound
we need to call
We
it
need to
Ghostbusters
see yourself
or
in like a screen.
It's
All right.
We're in a
upstairs.
Warcraft dungeon, bro.
All right,
Like,
everyone.
it's Zolfarak. That's it.
Who
That
has
is it. This is
a
what it reminds me of.
who has a good interpretation
Jesus,
of what
man,
this
that's a
art
bit
means? I want
retro.
to hear it. What does this mean? What does the whole thing mean?
You're playing God?
Tell me.
Hands.
Yeah.
The hands are control.
You're playing Puppet Master.
Look how it spins with the outer ring.
Okay.
Or
It should be in a museum.
The origin of DJing.
I do like that combination where it does make you feel like God, and then also it lets you be a DJ. So like that's a good combination. You control the music. You see everything. You're God.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
To be honest, if I
now-
saw this
Ruler.
like in day-to-day life, I'll be like,
All of the
No,
hands
run
are
away
aware
with
to
fear.
change the environment.
I suppose
Yeah.
the way you
So-
can look at it
hold
is
on.
that there's.
Hold on, we need one person talking at a time. Freeman, I missed what you said. What if you saw this? What?
oh no, I was just saying like, if I saw this in real life, no way. Like I'll be run away in fear. Like,
Well,
like
true.
infidels, kind of like scared.
that's true of a lot of
you know,
things I saw in
miracles
VRChat
and
too.
yeah.
Dirk, what were you saying?
Dark kilt. It's okay. No, I was going to say. So, like the actual camera and the screen that's right there, it can not only see the Oh dear. Oh Christ. Ziggurat itself. Sorry, I'm going all over
No,
the
you're
place.
okay.
The ziggurat. But you can also see yourself on the ziggurat, which kind of shows this idea that you are part of something greater than yourself.
Ooh,
And I keep on doing
That
it
is
for whatever
fucking
reason.
deep.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna be the DJ god of the party of the world, like you'd want to be participating in that party too. I think.
Yeah.
I like that.
Catapult.
Well, looking at all the hands drawn on the side, it's like whoever made them had a fetish for index fingers.
That's another way of looking at it.
There's also blood bars in the white bar.
I think there's. I mean, that's funny, but I think they are supposed to be like keyboard keys, right? Like these are. Oh no! Oh
All
no!
of them have 4
Oh,
bars.
shit.
They all have 3 black
Hello?
bars and 1
Who's
white
doing that?
bar.
I didn't expect that one.
bad. I did not mean to do that. Sorry.
Oh no!
The
Set your
sliders
sound
are
effects
very
low,
good.
guys.
thing.
I don't know how
So
to
I
turn it
turned.
off.
You can turn
I-
the
I-
sound down. There's actual
I think
volume
it-
Go to your
it seems
game
like-
settings and turn off sound effects.
I mean, it seems like I think we need a sacrifice, and I
time to abandon
nominate
map.
Oh, are
Endgame
you
VR.
volunteering? Oh.
No, Endgame VR. I'm nominating.
She's right there in the center.
Let me nominate
yeah,
someone
so-
I was about to
else.
say, the sacrifice is already in the spot. Just finish it off right now.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he
He
loves
should be
being in the
the,
spotlight all the time. So
If we sacrifice
time.
him, though, we sacrifice lots of people because he's the central point that everybody has to do their requests on.
So he gained
No.
power then.
Oh, Pika. If you know what, if we can't, you gotta know, if we can't hear the music, all we hear is your guys' breathing.
That is-
It's good
Yeah.
music too.
Yeah.
Here, I think.
Oh dear
Um,
Christ, no. I'm good, thanks.
Now, someone mentioned. Oh, did you say we can change something else in the world?
Yes, all of the hands around the outside change the environment.
Hmm.
Like if you push the different fingers.
Oh.
Actually, yeah, look at that.
Oh. So you
Cool.
get to
And
move
then the
out even
colors-
more.
Yep.
Oh, check that out.
It's synced.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Whoa.
Oh god, now we're in
Pink, get rid of
synthwave.
the pink. Come on.
Oh god. Synthwave.
Jesus, why does
Oh,
everything
God.
go to synthwave at the end of the day?
Cool. Not cool.
Aesthetic.
Dang.
Okay, so here's a question: Is being a VRChat world
Pyramid.
creator playing God, and is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know.
Never a good thing. Yeah,
It
it's a
always
good thing.
depends on
I'm
the
a
ego.
Christian.
Okay, Voltage.
It could be both a good or a bad thing. It's just a good thing because I know you can take full control, but the bad thing obviously is like you got like responsibilities. Like once you have like one screw up, it's over. Something big and bad will
you
happen.
could definitely make a. You could accidentally make a malicious world. Especially.
Whoa.
Oh dear.
Mic's blowing up.
What's
Oh no.
happening with your microphone?
Your microphone is
Oh,
just killing my
no.
ears.
This is what
Oh,
happens
God.
when you
play
God, people.
Example.
I was waiting for it.
Okay, example of accidental
Jesus
malice.
Christ.
Some
Okay.
desktop, a lot of desktop, VR chat world creators, they might not have VR and they're on desktop. They might not understand that a shader that they put on the world causes double vision in
Oh,
VR
yeah,
headsets,
yeah.
like that Mario Peach Castle world. Right now, you log in and if you're in VR, you can barely access your menu to get out of there. It hurts. Like it visually
Yeah.
hurts.
Right,
Mhm.
right. You can actually induce physical discomfort.
Yeah,
And I have
know.
definitely.
Mirror's Curse is stuck like that right now. Like, you go
yeah,
in Mirror's
and there
Curse.
and there are some people who will do that sort of thing on purpose. I've been dropped into troll worlds before where it messes up
I
your
know.
vision and you can't open your menu and yeah. So
Well, I'm
that's-
giving a world creator a
thing.
benefit of doubt. Like they might not
Sure.
know that is a problem because they might have never been in VR. So,
yeah.
like, you do
You
have
have
the
to know
power of
more.
God.
Yeah, so if you want to be a god, you just have to be omniscient and know everything. That's all.
That's a lot to put on people who may be dabbling into game art design for the very first time.
It's true. But luckily, so far, we're only integrated with a few senses. We've got our eyes, we've got our ears, we have, haptics or whatever, but so far, the stakes are still pretty low. If you mess up, you're not going to cast mortals into hell. You're just going to, give them an uncomfortable experience for now. All right. Who else
I like
has a
that.
comment or two about this world, or we can?
Oh God,
Move
the
on.
pyramid
I'm
change. Can we step on these things, or are we gonna fall through?
The god thing is.
So, I may say one thing that adds to that, what you're saying just earlier. You're saying it's a good or a bad thing. Honestly, I don't see it outside of like if you're actively going out of the way to make people feel sick or something like that. Really, no bad sides, because really this leaves an entire new industry of games. Just this is the kind of catalyst of it. I'm not saying it's always going to be VRC, but there's going to be more, and it's going to allow people who aren't already in an industry and want to be a part of it to do their own portfolios. And then in the future, where games are more than likely going to be a lot more interactive like this, allow you to have a whole entire set of fresh minds, well, not fresh minds, vetted fresh minds, ready to enter the force and make those games.
I think I've got to agree. Like it's pretty empowering to be able to create a space where people can come, and it kind of reminds me too. Like this kind of ties back into like the history of, ancient times and ancient history. Like we are empowered to do quite a bit more things than we were able to before. Like not just in 3D art and VR, but also like two-dimensional art. The things I see like teenagers creating in terms of like two-dimensional art because they have the tools and resources to learn how to do it is incredible. And like back when the original Ziggurat of was created, it was like a very, very tiny portion of the population that had artisanal knowledge that could actually learn anything. And so I think that's kind of a cool progression.
I get it. So Mesopotamia was the first civilization. Well, that's documented. So seeing the ziggurat for the very first time must have been like an awe-inspiring experience.
Oh, yeah.
It must have been.
Like,
That's
yeah.
why they were built. They were built.
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
built to impose that proof on you that something this grand can exist.
Right.
And it must be only in service of the most grand beings in the universe, right?
Right, to instill divinity. And the people who made this ziggurat or the ziggurat of like they were deified by their society, like they became like gods in the history or whatever. And like and yeah, so like ancient structures like that were created for that purpose. And like you'll see the same thing with cathedrals and things like that. They're constructed to instill awe and to evoke feelings of the divine. I wonder though, as we get like more and more empowered to create cool things, like does it become harder and harder to create impressive things?
These are great. It's brilliant to look back in history, but I definitely think, it's at this point. I think it's more like we create our own history. Not me personally, myself, but definitely people who are the pioneers of, say, people who definitely like in VR, because I think the thing is fundamentally no one wants. Well, that's what I feel. People don't want automation. People don't want everything to say. Who's going to become more like ease, like the mundane task being taken over. But I don't know what other people would think. But
I get what you're saying, but there's a counter argument to that. So prior to, let's say Mesopotamia was the first civilization. Prior to Mesopotamia, let's say, everyone, their day was occupied by hunting and gathering whatever they could find. But now you have the automation of food, agriculture, and now people are given free time to create the ziggurat. So if you automate people's daily lives even further, they don't even have to do chores anymore. They can be free to create even better things.
That's been a myth since the beginning of
Automation
history.
should create more jobs and not take jobs.
Hold on. We've got two people talking at once. Let's do Elboy and then Lyco.
Sorry. But that's been a myth since the beginning of history that like automation and technology will give us more free time. We just find more work to do.
It's true that we don't have more free time, but we do have more resources at least.
We're cursed with the squishy brain tissue that has to solve problems all the time.
I was about to say find meaning.
And capitalism.
And capitalism.
Because like the 40-hour work week, like that's not necessary, but it's necessary to keep our consumer economy going. So
wait, yours is only 40? Bugger. You're gonna say?
I never.
Well, 40 hours is standard in the US.
No, I'm
working
being
laws
silly.
are I think most of us would agree it's ridiculous, but let's keep that out of this discussion now.
Sure.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
I'm not rare that I'll be the one to say that, but the thing
Fine,
is,
70 and no more.
I'm surprised that you don't think it's relevant, but I think Great Blonde Elf has something to say.
Oh, sorry, I was just saying you're motivating the case pretty well that we count as the gods of the new space. Because if we look
back in our history, a lot of the ancient gods are basically humans. Like they screw up an awful lot. You know, their morals are nascent. The things they create are inchoate, and like therefore, human life is just this kind of black comedy. And over time, people get monotheistic, they get more intense, and like over time people come up with mythos that have to do with like perfect gods that did a really good job. And so it's weird because I'm not sure that that's perfectly fair, but there's a progression where like the gods kind of suck and they're bad at this, and then over time they sort of get better and better, and now our idea of a god is that, well, they have to be perfect or else why would they have been the creators of the universe? And so maybe there's going to, you know, if we're right now we're in the Greek god like place where we just screw everything up and hurt everybody. There'll come a time, right, where we get better at this.
Oh God, I don't want
like
that
that
stress.
idea.
That's like almost what happened with YouTube. It was a creative heaven, and now if you're a YouTuber, you have to be like almost perfect.
That is an interesting pattern.
Yeah.
I like this conversation. I think we can wrap it up though, and let's head on to the next location.
Next world.
Yes. Let's head down here.
All started because of a ziggurat.
Oh God, oh no, this is really scary for me.
What the fuck? What are you doing?
No.
No, you just gotta go for it.
Slide down. Slide down.
He's buying new microphones. That's pretty cool.
It's the next world, okay?
What's up, baby?
Okay.
I added you because that was really insightful, man. I want to talk
Any
to
of
you
that
more
coming
about
through
that
with
shit.
Network IK.
Hey guys, get Pop a Pro Room to open up a portal.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the
Yeah,
deal.
everyone stand behind her.
Okay, here's the deal about the next one. It has a bit of a performance aspect. So there will be some animation, there will be some sound effects. So turn up your sound effects, and it will also be really noisy. So we won't be able to talk there. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go into this space and watch the cool thing, and then I'm going to open up a portal to the next world where we can talk about it. So, and if you get separated, request on Endgame VR.
We should also all line up. That would be a good idea.
I know, right? Is that a custom avatar he has?
Nah, he is like a really nice guy, bro.
Oh, I love this.
I can tell it's your
really
teeth.
nice
You've
guy,
got them
bro.
done, haven't you?
I'm sorry, gotta open up another one.
Yeah. Visalines, I could tell.
This one. Go ahead. Go.
No, oh yeah, no, all sorts of stuff. I'll tell you on another time.
That is fine.
It's great to see you.
Oh.
You're human born. It's caught in an existential limit. Trapped as 3D matter. Saves time and you so within. There's no getting out. Yet.
Oh. Aha!
In the meantime, suggest that participating in human experience.
Okay, look.
There are great numbers of fun activities you can do. Here are some. Ice. Nice.
Ages and he really set standards for dance music.
Animals.
No, the first thing came to mind.
Make a silly joke.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
more just like
you little faith.
Who about you from?
And let's remember,
yeah, I was in another instance of this world. This world's crazy.
Wow, we have exhilarating options to choose from.
He's having fun too.
Such simple divinities. Embrace them while you're locked in, as the existential limit laughs
This
at
is
us.
crazy.
All right, I'm gonna open up.
There were certainly lots of drugs involved in the making of this world. So
No, I'm
it's
not
fair to say
convinced of that. Let's head in here.
a lot of methamphetamines and a lot of other sorts of shrooms and the like.
It's very bright.
Oh no, I'm being looked at by a giant eyeball. Lovely.
That was really cool.
Wasn't
the
it
spinning
cool?
animation was so
Oh
good.
man, I know. I never see that type of shit. I was really excited
Yeah.
about it.
I
Oh,
I
Well-
already put it in the chat. It's not hard.
it'll be okay.
Oh, it's a giant eyeball.
I should have put it on earlier.
LASIK commercials. Got it.
This is cool too.
Okay, so you'll probably get a whole bunch of people requesting on you because we couldn't stay in the same instance.
We already split up.
Get ready. Brace yourself. Winter could possibly come after you invite everyone. So. Oh, so you deal with the same problem I have. Just constant misery and drizzle. Thank you. Oh. Shoot, how'd you race?
There's a recent list.
How'd you
And I
race?
can go to it, and I can
England? Sorry, what was that?
favorite it.
England? England? Aye. Do you want me to explain to you how Braveheart works?
There's no need to start
No,
fights now.
no, I'm just
we're
being a
just having a
dick.
console
really bright.
conversation.
It hurts my eyes.
Okay, calm down there, Dick
Hey,
Van
don't
Dyke.
you yell at
Okay,
me! I don't want to hear from you!
I guess you're a chimney sweep in your spare time too.
Alrighty, okay,
Night
alright.
mode made it a little better.
Yeah, just
All
like
three
a
of them
woman
so
likes
far
it.
have black and white thumbnails.
What?
Yeah.
With
That's
extra
cool.
kilt?
Extra
That's awesome.
kilts? How about no kilts? Alright, right.
Hey, Corkin, you fit in perfectly. You're one with the world.
Changed a lot since I've been in it. One with the
Yeah.
You are
This
just
guy's
a
inspecting everybody's
figment
avatars
of my
now, so we have good
imagination that's a
performance.
part of this world.
Awesome. Yeah.
We're waiting for the group to
Very
gather back together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's we're getting there.
Oh,
Okay.
jeez.
Cool.
Oh.
Again, I was about to say, look, be yourself, don't be me. You don't want to be me.
Also, maybe save that for when you're on your own account and you know, you can stream your own show. Yes, I do.
In other words, she's saying in a nice manner, you're being a reprobate right now.
Reprobate. I should start using that word. Yes, thank you.
There you go.
Alright,
The more you know. Do.
Oh, it looks like people are starting to load in.
Okay.
getting there.
There's
a medulla.
It's a Wheatley. It's a giant Wheatley from Portal.
Aha! I can abide by that. Oh bloody, oh bloody, oh my. La 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 la, life goes on.
Oh, white.
I know, it's a little too white. We don't have to stay here long, but this is by the same...
Yeah.
Eyes are super.
Would you mind getting your hand out of my eyeballs?
This is by the same artist, so...
Okay.
Look, I will end you.
All right, I think while people stream in, we should. I think while people stream in, we should start discussion. So ready, everybody?
Oh.
Thank
you for bringing us to Burning Man.
Yeah. All right. So okay, the the previous world we were just at, everybody I hope saw the cool little like feature. And what do you guys think that was about?
Life. Brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
There was a toothbrush in there. I saw that. It went
I
by
mean-
a little quickly.
It was about
Go
like
ahead.
a small.
I'll put some input in. I know I speak a lot. Sorry. But no. So my input is that the artist specifically made that like I Am the Walrus, like the Beatles. They made it legitimately with no reason at all to see what people would come out and think the reason was.
Well, okay, but there were words spoken, like they weren't just nonsense. Like
No,
it
no,
said
no.
something.
I think what he was saying is that really art is up to the interpreter. In other words, like I Am the Walrus being a song about nothing that you then find your own meaning to.
Well, okay, sure, but and that's true. I mean, that's
No, you're
true
good, you're
about
good.
art in general. So, but the theme that was repeated through that little performance, and you should go back again if you liked it sometime and check it out. But the theme that kept being repeated was existential limits. So there was a flash of a DNA strand, and there were like human organs falling all over the room. There were people like flashing in and out of the space that were doing physical things, and like the whole monologue there was kind of about the human body and the limits of the human body, and how we haven't been able to surpass them at any point. And again, it was really vague about this. It was unclear whether in some cases, in some ways, it almost felt like a taunting sort of thing. Like your human fragile limits are so like they're so confining. And but on the other hand, it could be seen as like a little hopeful because it was also sort of bringing up the questions about whether we are like whether we are definitively confined to our bodies, or whether that just is a byproduct of our biology that we can escape in some way someday. What do you guys think? Can we escape? Can we get out of our bodies?
Mhm.
I wish.
Well, that's kind of
Well,
weird.
a
There's
lot-
certain
a-
way
a
to
lot-
leave your body.
Oh, we got to do a raise of hands.
What?
Or failed? Did you say something?
I mean, you can die. That's for certain. We don't know
True.
where you go after.
Well, yes,
Oh,
Kaiden.
That's, I mean, the escape of body. That's pretty much what we're doing right now. VR. You can be anyone you really want to. So, I mean, yeah. Technically,
That's true. Though that leads back Fail's point, which is that once you die, you can't do that anymore. As far as we know, I think one of the ultimate goals of maybe not transhumanism, but some form of transhumanism is to be able to like do the brain upload thing, right? Transform your body into something that doesn't have biological limits. We've talked about that on the show a few times before. It's actually been pretty split as to whether people are interested in leaving their body or whether they want to stay in it because that's what's them. And as soon as they upload their brain, or as soon as they transfer to some sort of cybernetic mental system, they won't be themselves anymore. And so maybe they don't want to do that, which I think is both are pretty interesting approaches. VRChat?
With your insight you brought out earlier about the body, I didn't actually notice that. I'll be honest with you. that went straight over my head. But now with that, I noticed one thing I did notice outside of that was the fact that at the end it all restarted. They didn't just like continuously go. So now maybe with my pagan ridiculous dance around a tree, we believe in unicorns, Scottish shite like that. I have a funny feeling that it's trying to say that there is the possibility that we are simply just on a continuous, our spirit is on a continuous roller coaster in which basically it's like amnesia after each life, or maybe there is a point where you get that realization of your previous by some way or another. Maybe that's how some of the more influential people on Earth got to where they were as quick, or the prodigy children of the world. But that in relation to the fact that last world was showing repeating like heads patterns and, as you're saying, body and then it restarted all over again. So
Yeah, that the reincarnation kind of idea, like that's a prominent idea in Eastern cultures and Eastern religions, like Buddhism and Hinduism and everything. Although it strikes me that the entire concept is rooted in, like, I don't know, this is something I haven't really discussed, but I thought about, where like the concept of a soul, and if Ed Verano were here, he would get at me, but like the concept of a soul is supposedly a very Christian idea. But if you are being reincarnated and you go from one life and you lose your memories and you go on to the next life, then what if you're not the composite of your memories and your experiences, then what like what makes it you that reincarnates? Like, if it's not just random chaos cohesing into a body. Right? Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I do. That's
Yeah?
like the whole idea behind Buddhism with karma. Your personality
Mhm.
comes between your souls and bodies and stuff, so whenever you're doing karma, you'll do bad shit. Your karma's worse, you go into a worse life, you'll still be the same person, and it tries to make you turn into a better person.
Okay, so your personality is like constructed based on your karma?
It's based on the soul. That's what it was.
Oh, I
It's like
see.
the idea behind
Okay.
Buddhism.
Interesting. All right, because that to me sounds like just, I don't know. I don't want to I don't know. I'm not like a huge fan of religious ideas, but I'm like I don't want to diminish like their
So most of the show's
like
audience
meaning
are
at all.
atheists.
Some of us, not all of us, I think. And I don't know. Like, if there are ideas out there, worth talking about, I want to talk about them. But it kind of seems like we'd have to, I don't know, to be able to say whether we reincarnate or whether we just go away. There has to be a lot that we don't know about the limits of the human body. I think, like, we'd have to know whether there's something that creates, that form that is part of our form that isn't just the physical signals. Because like if the only thing creating me is the electrical signals in my body, then it's all a moot point. So I bet we'll find more about that as we continue as a species. Spooky Ghost? Oh, sorry.
So yeah, that's cool. I guess the question is are you your body or are you what's in your body? So it's like
Right.
how do you look at yourself? And it's like most of the cues that we get to like signal that we're real is physical, but like there's non-physical things that affect us, like thoughts or like things we want. It's like, where do those come from? Is that
And
coming
our
from a physical
relationships
place?
too, I think. Like when I see another person, like they're not just interchangeable with another person, even if they had very similar bodies. Like if I knew two identical twins, I wouldn't, they wouldn't be the same person. So
There's some solid
can't hear
case to be
anybody.
made for the human spirit as being a distinct thing. A bunch of the, and this is a whole. Sometimes I give a lecture on this at a different time in a different place, but some of the more modern quantum mechanical discoveries suggest that there's probably a part of you that does the observing of the world that thus is out that is also outside of the purview of like energy exchange. So there's a part of you that's either controlling the meat body that you're running around in, or is subtly controlling the bunch of probability, the bunch of random number generators that you have inside your head, that then furthermore have a deterministic but chaotic interaction with the rest of your brain. So like it's possible that you're basically controlling all the random things around a sort of localized space, and that was what you would call the soul. It's a theory that I've been working on for a little while, but like there's some stuff to hold that up in like modern quantum mechanics in like the 21st century. I don't want to.
that's I like all those ideas. I get a little bit like wary of it because there's so much like new age stuff that is built into that. Like, we can control what happens to us in the world because of quantum mechanics, and I think it's probably not that simple. But I also do think that we quantum mechanics is a relatively recent discovery, and we're just gonna find more and more of how it informs our world. Like quantum biology is a thing. Birds use quantum mechanics in their brain to find their way. I believe they use it in navigation somehow. I don't remember the details of it, but
have like an entangled state in there somewhere, or because yeah, I've definitely seen people overuse the term, but the underlying principle is a couple of experiments in the early 2000s sort of showed that you could measure a thing and then unmeasure it as long as all the information was destroyed, which suggests that if there is a human element to observation, that it's the only thing that can maintain the world as it is and not have it sort of decohere back into unknowableness. So
that would be
I don't know.
bonkers. I can't, because the universe existed for so long before any life came around. Like, how would those things have happened?
In the same picture, the past becomes as unknowable as the future, so it gets quite weird to think about, and I'm not 100% sure it's fully developed.
So on this fact of karma and the whole life cycle and how you, if it is a fact that you come back in your same spirit in a different body, what is it then that you can run into a person that can make such an effect on your life that it can entirely change your direction that you're going? Would that be considered as something exterior or something that was meant, and I mean this in the fact that then that can then change your route to the next life, if we're talking about the fact that if you're going to die in this life, and then yeah.
If there is such thing as a soul, then there is an entirely alternative structure to things that exist in the universe that we don't have any clue about, that we don't have any, it will have a physics of its own, and I think we can only speculate on what that would be, whether there could be what causality would mean in that respect, and how it would take into account this alternative framework by that spiritual events happen by. I don't know.
And I'm not necessarily asking the question, I'm simply stating it because it's something that intrigues me in the fact that it's not just your singular journey sometimes. Sometimes it is, not always though.
All right. I think we can move on to the next place.
Endgame. Say, would you mind? I tried. PT tried to join in along with a couple of others.
That was the most interesting conversation that I've come halfway into.
Not to.
Oh. Yeah, actually.
Oh
no.
Aye, okay, he asked me, that's right.
I invited Pika too.
Hey, thank you guys for the repeated invites, by the way.
Oh.
Some lag.
Oh no!
It's
Okay,
no.
well, we need to move. Are we?
Wait, but this has 20 people. We can fit 40 in here.
All I'm saying is he asked me and Kaiden and couldn't invite them.
Yep.
It wouldn't accept the invite.
So it's not.
Oh no,
the
you're
World
good. You're good.
Cup.
Just asking.
It's just some sort of problem with the invitations, which yeah, that sucks.
No biggie.
Just two
True.
for the next
Well,
world.
okay.
We'll hop in.
Let's. I've sent a few more invites. We'll see if they go through. While we wait, let's tour this place a little bit. Let's go around in a circle. Don't get too far away from me. Form two straight lines and follow.
Invites don't work.
Around.
How do you move so fast?
Mother, may I?
Follow the mother.
I like a lot of different pieces in here. They're like just like statues. Great Blonde Elf said it looked like Burning Man, which actually is not far off.
There's a weird book over here. It says Snape kills Dumbledore.
Oh man, I wonder what this message means.
Over the place.
Great. But this is Burning Man's more colorful than this, honestly.
Well, okay,
It's not
that's
a fair
true. But
comparison.
the other
Oh, he probably has
attributes you
leg
mentioned.
trackers on. He's just like sitting at his desk.
And there's not enough naked people.
Wires go all the way up into the sky. Holding up the eyeball.
Ooh.
I just noticed.
Don't walk the wires.
Is this another for Endgame?
You can throw it.
Oh no.
Oh no! Now I feel bad.
Frozen.
It's still going. I shouldn't have done that.
Well, some of this fruit's pretty old.
Yeah.
Color.
This looks a little bruised.
Everything looks so sharp in this world.
I think this is a black lemon.
Are you sure it's not a black lime?
A banana.
It could be black
You know,
lime. I
so I
don't
was in
know. I
LA
don't
a
know.
couple days ago, and they had pineapple ice cream that was pure black. It was cool.
Ice cream that was pure
That
black.
sounds awesome, actually.
It was really great.
Oh, I see. There's
Oh,
certain
I
things that
see.
stand out in black.
Well,
Okay.
Interesting. I mean, it's a
But
limited
yet-
color palette, but
So the things that are natural are black, but the things that look or appear to be man-made, maybe, are white.
I wonder.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe so.
Generator or something.
The DNA.
Oh,
the
I
DNA
think it's
is
a CPU and
natural.
fan or something.
Yeah.
Underneath it.
Well, the
Oh,
hands,
maybe
though,
not.
but that's
Power
I'm not too
supply.
sure.
Is that open?
Yeah, power supply
Can we
and a
open this?
CPU with a fan.
No.
Oh, we gotta. Okay, we gotta.
Maybe what they're
Into the
trying to say is the
fluoride.
combination of natural and unnatural, i.e. AI, CPUs, that stuff.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Also, natural materials. We've
True.
had a few shows about that. About
Notice how it's
the
above everything though.
natural impact of creating all this technology.
It's floating because it's not grounded, possibly.
Yeah.
It's in a different level.
Is that a mirror?
Is there like a sprint bar in
I know it's
VR?
an iPad.
No sprint.
Is it a? Oh, it's a phone. It's an iPhone.
Basically.
One side's
No
black,
copyright
one
intended.
side's...
With no home
Yeah.
button.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that's how
maybe
it
it's
is.
an
It's an
No,
Android
it's just a
phone.
screen.
It could be
It's
an
just a
Android.
screen. Yeah.
An Android phone.
No, it's got a camera bump.
Well, Android phones can have camera bumps.
Oh,
You spin it
bad.
You spin me right around, right around.
This little piece reminds me of how lonely humans are. Like, we've got an abstract image and we try to talk to other animals about it and they have no idea what we're talking about because they don't.
It's like
they don't. we have
it's
no
like
one
the
to talk
idea
to.
that even if an animal was able to speak English, there still would be no understanding between the two simply due to the fact of how different our lifestyles are. You would literally not be able to comprehend the other animal's lifestyle, even if they knew English. So
I don't know. There's those gorillas and chimpanzees that know sign language, and there's some communication there.
They
You know,
they do. They know sign language a bit, but
even
but
emotions.
where humans differ from animals is we have symbolic processing, and that's something that most animals don't have much capacity for. Sometimes chimpanzees or even parrots a little bit. Pardon?
Well, you notice if you stand on it, you don't rotate with it. Instead, you actually get like absorbed both. Like you see both sides of it.
I am absolutely rotating with this.
Yeah.
Just stand in the middle.
Kind of dizzy.
I'm rotating the opposite direction.
Ah! Oh, I gotta
I
get
am
off.
rotating the opposite. Wait, I'm rotating.
you are spinning
You
counterclockwise to the clockwise spin of the table.
I think this world exaggerates.
But you
black and
yourself
whites.
are not
So I
actually
assume it's, like,
moving.
all
You are
white
spinning
normally.
counterclockwise.
Oh, I'm dizzy now.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah,
Let's
it's
head
pretty
on.
dizzying.
Let's head on to the next place. Let's see.
We're told.
Oh, no,
For ease.
How is this? Hear music.
Okay. Good enough. Hey guys, we're portaling up. Next world's on the way.
It's where butterflies aren't. Okay.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
The cap is 10.
Only 10. Only 10 folk in here.
Well,
Cap
20
is 10.
people. 20 people can fit in here if they request an invite.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
definitely should have. I'll go back there and remind
What is
people
this
to do that.
button?
I like
What
these
is that?
colors.
Toggle.
Can you get that?
Looks like negatives.
Looks like a Pink Floyd album cover.
This is actually the nicest so far.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, actually, it looks a wee bit like a Jimi
No,
Hendrix
crashes into the ceiling.
album cover.
Oh, that's it.
Or like a Beach Boys music video.
Wouldn't it be
Okay.
nice if we were
Yeah.
under oh Jesus.
Oh.
Oh.
Don't press the toggle.
Excuse
More
me?
of like a heroes and villains.
Can I write it?
Interesting.
I want to write it.
Purple
Get on it.
haze all in my mind.
Why am I so big?
Why'd you call it a jetpack if I
So
can't
big.
use it?
Not that
Okay, wait a minute.
funny, but I don't know why. Excuse
Oh,
me
no.
while I
Oh,
kiss
no.
the sky.
There's like a foot and a half hole.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Oh god.
Toggle screen.
Oh god.
Hi, Owl Boy.
You're going into the sky
I like
now. You don't have any choice. Bye.
Going into the sky. Okay. Okay, coming back down.
Fractals.
I don't know.
Weird
I
frame.
can't come back. I don't know.
How are you flying?
Yes, I can't come back. I don't know how it works.
How are you flying?
How do I
Please
stop?
figure out how
I
it
don't know how to
works.
stop.
Figure out how it works.
Flying.
Okay.
Whoa! It's
We're
like the opposite of
crashing.
life. It's like the opposite of life alert.
She's probably gonna request.
I've
an
flown and I
invite
can't
to-
get up. I've flown and I
The
can't
dark
get
side
down.
of Harry
Try that
Potter.
one more time. Okay.
Oh man, this
Oh,
is
there you
cool.
go.
Okay, wait a minute. Can
There
I
were a
have
couple
this?
people left in there. So hopefully they'll get back
Okay.
in. There's Corgan.
Oh, you have one too.
All right, and I'm gonna try to invite.
No, I can't write it myself
Corgan,
though. It's
Really?
like it's like you can't.
Oh.
Oh gosh.
Like I can pilot it for somebody else, but I can't write it. Okay. Wee. Does somebody have the other one?
Probably. Oh, what's happening?
Oh, and oh jeez, it grew
Ah,
bigger.
crap! What's going on now? Okay. Oh, that was upsetting.
Cool. Is what you're in right now.
Careful with that. You might get sick.
Make sure you've got your.
I'm desynced, so I think
Margaret,
that
no.
I think we're not gonna see the same
no.
same image.
Uh-oh.
Which means we'll just have to hang out by the couch to get some sense of. Oh, careful there. Okay, let's hang around the couch.
What's going on? Okay.
What's
that
Whoa, whoa. Everything's moving.
All right, so
Shouldn't have
one
looked
thing
that
about
direction.
this world is it's not synchronized, so we're gonna see different things at different times. And then also like this one is more, it's maybe there's a little less interpretation to have here, but this is fractal art, which I really enjoy 3D versions of. Like, so okay, so one thing I looked up the definition of fractal, hoping that I could just tell you guys, oh, it's this. It's actually really hard to pin down, and they actually it doesn't have as concrete a definition as I thought it did. There are different aspects that a fractal has. So it has self-similar patterns, which means that when you look at a piece of it, or when you kind of zoom into it, it also resembles how it looks if you zoom out of it. That sort of self-similar thing. But what is, I think, geometrically distinct about it is something that I'm not entirely sure I understand, but it has to do with the way it scales. So its surface area and its topological representation doesn't scale in the way a normal shape scales. So like a cube, you expect its volume to increase by cubes when you increase it, but with a fractal, it's not a integer number like that. It literally possesses something called a fractal dimension, which I don't quite understand, and maybe I should read more about. But
If you want to think, they always taught me based on the Koch curve. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but you take a line segment.
What?
You take basically a
snowflake.
Yeah, the snowflake curve. Basically, you take a single line segment, you chop out the middle third, and you make a point in the middle. And if you imagine, now there used to be basically 3 segments of equal length, and now there's 4. And then you do it again to each of the individual segments that are left, and it starts to sort of make a snowflake pattern.
Yeah, you'd recognize it if you saw it. It's called the Koch
The Koch curve, yeah. Koch
snowflake curve. And yes, so but what's cool about VR is this ability to create fractals mathematically and then step into them, which you know, I like a lot. It's like one of the things that is talked about is like mathematical the question of whether mathematics exists, right? Like whether numbers exist, whether they exist in anything but an abstract imaginary sense. And I like having this visual this kind of visual like statement almost that numbers are real things, geometric ideas are real things, but it's still not something you can like point to in the real world and say that's a math thing, because it's always just a representation of it.
I like that.
So sort of like I'm not mathematical. I don't have some sort of insight. I've never really taken the time to sit down, but off of my layman understanding is that sort of like how a spider can make a web in the patterns that it does naturally, but upon different situations and different moods, it can completely affect that pattern that is usually very Koch, as you might say.
Yeah, actually, yeah, so fractals are actually, I don't know if, I'm not actually sure where spider webs fit in terms of like mathematical patterns, but there are fractal patterns in biology, or basically, you know, they can't ever express a fractal in the way that this fractal can be expressed, where it basically can go in on itself forever. It's like the Mandelbrot fractal where you zoom in on it forever. You can't have that in physical reality, but there are organisms and yeah, they express themselves in a fractal pattern. So there's a type of broccoli that literally, like, if you look at it, it looks like a fractal looking at it. It's super cool. And then
It's really pretty.
the way slime molds grow, some slime molds grow in fractal patterns. And there were a few other examples that were on the Wikipedia article.
You can think of fractals that are a little more, I don't know if metaphorical is the right word, but you can think about how like cells in a human body have little organs in them. And then all of those cells go together to make a human body that has organs in it. And then we put ourselves in little boxes, and then those are part of little buildings, and there's little people in all the rooms, and you know, you can talk about fractals in that kind of wacky way too.
I think it's a useful idea. And just to help us conceptualize things like that.
In other words, a nirvanic principle. You'll never really find it in the real world, but there's so many things that are just that close to it.
Yeah, there's so many things that are expressing it. Yeah, I like that.
Like how this one keeps on changing.
Yeah, I like that too. There's a few other worlds like this. One of them is called Treehouse in the Shade, probably by the same artist.
Actually, hold on. I need to save these. Why have I not been doing that?
Oh, it is. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
we keep
a list?
I've got a couple of them if you want.
You can actually. There's a recent list that should have all the worlds that we've been to so far, and you can take them from there.
All of these are going in my chill.
I'm gonna get one.
There we go.
It's in Azure Fox's world. I'm gonna get off of this. Okay, there we go.
All right. many people are in here. We got many people.
What's it called?
1, 2,
This would be
3,
edgy
4,
what a
5,
black hole looks
7,
like.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
All right, this one is kind of a long
What you
download,
said.
but we'll wrap up. We'll wrap up in the next one.
Yeah.
Fox.
It's really
I never
cool.
said I knew German, I just said I knew a little bit of German.
And here we are, back in reality.
Is it though? Is it reality? Or is this just
It
fantasy?
feels like it after being in such abstract worlds
Out
for
in
a
the
while.
landslide.
Whoa.
Oh.
Actually,
It's a
I wasn't
good-
going to go with
it's a
that,
good
but
transition.
I'll accept it. Scaramouche. No, the Scaramouche, the song I was going to say. Bohemian Rhapsody and all that. Galileo. Damn it, you've got me doing it
Cool.
now.
Why no? We're back in reality and we're singing Queen. This is cool. We can do that.
I
Galileo
know, we're gonna get a copyright notice.
Uh-oh. Oh no!
Are we doing as good an interpretation to where we copyright it? Because I really don't think we're doing it that justice.
0%.
We can't earn that copyright strike if we wanted to.
Yeah.
All right, I'm trying to get.
Ooh, look here, William Shatner, calm down.
In here
Mamma
again.
mia.
I don't think it's gonna
Mamma
work.
mia.
Damn it. Okay.
Actually, I'll introduce you.
All right. Cool. Thanks. All right. So here we are. This is called the Hull-Will Museum, and this is a place in real life that was actually what you're standing in is actually a like pretty much a photograph. So it's a 3D photograph, obviously, but it's called photogrammetry, where they take a camera, they take a bazillion pictures of a place, and they stitch it all together and make a 3D model out of it. And this is a method that more and more people are using. I actually see it all over the place in Sketchfab, which is a website you can find 3D models. People make photogrammetry models of all sorts of ancient things. Like this is not like ancient, but it's pretty old. But then there's museum artifacts and statues and things like that people will capture to retain basically in really high fidelity what something looks like in 3D space. And we've been able to do that with photography for a long time, but now we can do it with 3D photography as well, which I think is kind of cool. I'm wondering though, like, is this an interesting gimmick or is it valuable? Does it teach us anything about history to do
I
this?
was about to touch you on the nose there. Fucking, you're on point. Notre
Okay.
Dame. Notre Dame. That's all I gotta say.
okay.
I think you understand where I'm going with that.
All right.
It legitimately can complete. I'll let you finish it. So.
Well, no, go ahead.
Oh, burnt down, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
They legitimately can completely rebuild down to a T because there are, just like this room here, complete 3D reproductions before it burnt down.
Yep. Okay.
In other words,
Yep,
keeping
that makes
history
sense.
alive in that way. So.
Interesting. So, but well, I mean, okay. Well, we're not going to do that with everything, though, right? Because not everything that has come from the past is going to be rebuilt again. Which kind of is another question. Like, how do we decide what to rebuild and what not to rebuild?
Well, if it's monumental to the country's history, I think that would be important.
Sure,
Like let's say the let's say the Washington, what's it, the four presidents face
Oh, Mount
location?
Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore.
Mhm.
Mount Rushmore, yeah. And that thing, for example, that needs to be that. There has to be, if it's damaged in any way, it has to be mandatorily rebuilt, because that's like
That's an interesting example you bring up though, because Mount Rushmore was carved into a mountain. We didn't build it. It was like carved out of things. So as soon as we start patching it up, it becomes
It's not
something
natural.
totally different.
Well, I think
Yeah.
even beyond like the excuse me, I'm a little sick. Beyond the preservation of history, I think there's a lot of good stuff that comes from it. Like people who maybe have disabilities or bedridden or whatever, maybe not be able to get to places like this, they'd have the chance to still experience it.
Yeah.
There's also kind of applications of like architecture, like students in architecture or just architects themselves could take things like this, get an idea of the understanding of design, both of like, the structural integrity and just the thematic pros. And I think that could be a pretty valuable point for sort of understanding like differences in culture and design and whatnot.
It kind of strikes me though of how all our modern technology allows us to hold on to things that we were never able to hold on to before and hoard them almost. Like we're keeping everything as much as we can. We keep records of everything. We keep everything, libraries and archives of everything that exists now. And I wonder what that does to our, like, it seems like it would be a good thing, right? Because history repeats itself because we don't know our history. So maybe the more we hang on to it, the better that will be. But also the more we hang on to it, maybe it will be unapproachable because there's so much of it. Well, yeah, see, you need something.
On that same topic, though, how relatable will it be? So, like, we don't have actual records of what day-to-day life was back, for example, just Mesopotamia. But nowadays, if we were to look back and watch it, we'd be like, what the hell were you doing? What were you doing? That's stupid. Why would you do? It would literally get to the point where we would just be like, unrelatable. But we're not at that point now where the history we're making now is going to be like that until literally hundreds of generations down the line.
Well, maybe, but I don't know. Things are also
Well, I
changing
think
pretty
I can
fast.
look at, like if you look at, Afghanistan in like the 70s or something, the place was totally different than it was now. Like, they had shopping centers and a lot of educational institutions and stuff, and now today a lot of it's just like rubble and street markets. Like it'd be really cool to go back and
the
live that again.
revolution happened.
So what will be interesting, I think, about that kind of history is also to be able to keep track of how fast things change, in a way that has a lot of fidelity. Something about the first world we went to, the Ziggurat world. That city literally existed for 4,000 years, 3,500 years until people stopped living there, and that's a long time for a city to live. Like it's not there aren't many cities like that that still exist, and so it'll be interesting to see what becomes of the cities we know now and how long they'll last. And we'll have lots of records of what they were like if if the records also aren't destroyed. But that's the ephemeral nature of our current media. We'll see.
Do you think it's a valuable thing to think about keeping records of the metaverse now that it's becoming this more inhabitable thing?
It's tough to say. I kind of compare it to like the records of the early internet, and BBS boards and things like that.
Okay.
I don't know. I kind of see it as a curiosity. I don't know if it has. I don't know how much historical impact those actually have, but I know they are important to a lot of people to see. Well, and it is important to just know where things came from, but I guess I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Anybody care about our early metaverse? Is this important in any way?
How was there a metaverse in the early internet though? We don't have VR. Oh, wait, we actually do have VR back in the 90s. Although it was in the very early stages.
Virtual boy.
Although, how do we have a metaverse back then, though?
No, I'm
Or
talking
am
about
I-
right now. Like right now is the early metaverse. Like we're at the very beginning of the history of the metaverse. And what does that mean? What is that like? Is that important?
It's already online already, so we could easily just rebuild it if it gets destroyed, or it's already uploaded, so
That's true
it could
too.
be uploaded again.
It's like fungible. You know, one thing is as good as another. I don't think I
Sure.
believe that. But it's maybe it's an argument. Phil, did you have something to say? Okay. Well, our time is about up. I've had a really good time on this field trip. I appreciate you guys coming with me all this way. If any of you are watching on this stream who weren't able to get back into the room, I apologize. That was a bummer. I didn't realize the invite system wasn't working properly. But yeah, thanks for the field trip and thanks for the wonderful discussion.
Well, you're
Appreciate it.
thanking
for
us.
showing us all
but
around.
We're thanking you
This
for
is
the
great.
fact that you had these world and the insight to go in depth as you did. So thank
No,
you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I love
let's
it.
do a picture.
Should do more field trips.
Let's do it. Oh, we should do more field trips.
What's the
We
best?
should go on the stairs.
Which room?
Watch
Let's
it on.
see.
Oh, I was
VRChat.
about to say, I'm no photographer, but stairs. So
Stairs are good. Okay. Yeah.
Can you get the pole?
Okay.
Go to the back. Can you go
Can we
to the
get
back?
all in here? Am I in the way?
Well, I can't see your camera because I came into the
can
world
see-
after you did or something. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
can't
me
see your
too.
camera
Can you
either.
turn it?
oh, are you just standing on the
There,
banister?
I can
Okay.
see it.
Okay.
You should be able to see his camera now. So everybody look for
Yeah.
that.
all right, if you can see his camera, you're probably in the photo.
Which side? To my right, or like your right? Like that? Or I can come up. I can come
You're
up here.
right. Your other right.
Your left. My right. My right. Okay, I can do that.
Oh no.
Look, if you're not right, you're left.
Wait. Should it be here? Should it be here or
No.
here?
Are
You
you
were
good?
You were good.
Okay.
Oh
Oh
no.
no.
Oh
You
no.
did?
Oh,
See,
yeah.
G-
Alright,
there you go. I only do one for you, no mama. Oh Christ, okay.
Nice.
Just got a panorama.
Panorama banana. Oh, banana.
Get another one of these.
if you like.
And then we can make a world out of it where we walk amongst ourselves.
No.
We are the museum.
Speaking of fractals, it'll just go on forever, and then we can
It'll
put
just
the
go-
panorama in that. And then
In
we
that
can
one.
That's true.
It'll be like photoception.
I'm ready.
Yo, we should do
Okay,
more
we'll do
field
some
trips.
of
I
them.
like this a lot.
Okay, great.
Nice.
Wait,
How meta, taking a
those
panorama
when
of a,
what? No, you
of a-
didn't. You just
of
stood
a-
there. Look here, you custom
Well,
avatar. I
space.
think you're talking a load
And a
of
buddy.
piss right now.
Stab. I got a
Look
sword.
here. Get on your bike and go. I've got about this much sight for you right now.
Whoa.
So,
I'm all tied up.
Derek, where did you come from? I've never seen you at. Oh, I thought we were done.
you
We were done.
Scottish?
What are you talking about? We took a photo. The photo is the thing. So,
Oh, yeah.
hello,
No, maybe.
goodbye. Hello, goodbye. Thank you.
Hello,
Bye.
I don't know why you say goodbye. I say hello.
Oh, it's a tomato.
Did you
Where's
got
the,
a-
where's the
your-
tomato at?
Your avatar is amazing.
the-
I love your,
Oh, thank
I love
you.
your
You
quilt
Oh my
spawn cloth.
gosh.
That huge, freakishly large Shiba that was in the room earlier. So. Oh gosh.